Welcome, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. We will take one more minute to let others join. But if you feel like it, please introduce yourself in the chat while we're waiting. Welcome, Michael, Nicole, Meredith. Welcome, everybody that's just joining. Liz, that was very efficient of you to put all that in there. Welcome, Liz. Great. Well, welcome, everybody. I am Talia Concrevis. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Assistant Director of Homeownership Programs here at OHCS. We have a full agenda here, and thanks for bearing with us. Canceled the meeting and delayed it for a little bit. We wanted to make sure we had this meeting after session so we could debrief on what the legislative session brought our way and how that would impact our homeownership partners. And so just to reground ourselves in what this meeting is our quarterly meeting with all of our homeownership partners. So anybody that is doing anything related to homeownership, we love to see you in this space. And this is our chance to share updates and information about what's happening within our division all at once so everybody can hear them. And also we always reserve time at the end of these meetings to hear from you. So think about if there's anything you want to share with the group while you have a diverse group of folks here. We've got homeownership centers, we have lenders, we have larger network organizations, we have folks from different local jurisdictions. So really exciting mix of people here in this room. We'll just follow the tradition of this meeting. Raise your hand using the raise hand function, or you could raise your real hand if this is the first time you've attended this meeting. Great, welcome Vanessa, Jorge, Ellen. Great, some newbies. Well, welcome. Oh, I see Kathy as well. Okay, awesome. And some tried and true ongoing partners that attend every time. So great. Well, I am joined today by different members of our team, and I'll have them introduce themselves as we go through the slides. But first, I just wanted to remind everybody, feel free to keep introducing yourself in the chat. We'll record this meeting and post it to our site so that you have all the information afterwards. Feel free to enter questions and comments in the chat at any time. We want this to be interactive and useful to you. And also feel free to raise your hand if you want to verbally say your comment or question. Sometimes that's just easier, and we'll keep an eye out for that. And also just stay on mute when you're not speaking. Hopefully the mute and unmute functions are working. Sometimes it's a little wonky in Teams. And today our plan is to move into a legislative debrief. Our government relations coordinator, Nathan Clark, will be talking about how the session went. Then we'll go into program updates, and we have updates from the HOPE programs and down payment assistance, homeownership development, and then Scott Shaw is here, and he'll give a lending update. And then we'll hear from you about any partner updates that you want to share, and we'll talk about any upcoming engagement opportunities. So let's dive in, and I'll pass it over to Nathan.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Nathan Clark. I use he, him pronouns. I'm a government relations and legislative coordinator here at Oregon Housing Community Services, and I support our homeownership division. I'm going to do just a quick overview of our agency as a whole and then get a little specific with homeownership. And then I'm going to put some information in the chat that has a little more in-depth highlight and overview of the agency investments for the 25-27 biennium. So overall, we received as an agency a $3.47 billion budget. And then we have this broken down below in our divisions. So $387 million for our housing stabilization division, $630 million for affordable rental housing, $111 million for homeownership division, and then $170 million for expenditure limitation for our disaster recovery and resilience. And this is the amount that allows them to spend from funds that they've gotten from other sources, generally the federal government. Specifically with homeownership, we have about 5 key investments that I'll highlight. So the bulk of that $111 million is $100 million that has been set aside in Article 11Q bonds. Oh, thank you, Talia. I don't remember putting that in there, so you're the best. Of local innovation and fast track programs. So our LIP program received $100 million in Article 11Q bonds, and then we will be holding aside $25 million of that for House Bill 3145, which has us working with NOAA to develop recommendations on how best to use those funds for prefab, pre-manufactured houses to go in as homeownership opportunities. That group will be looking at both affordable rental housing and homeownership opportunities. So both the affordable rental housing division and the homeownership division are setting aside $25 million per the requirements of House Bill 3145. And then once they make their recommendations, they'll figure out where what kind of projects they'll be funding and whether they're all affordable rental or they're all homeownership or it's a mix of both. And that's something that the House Housing Chair, Representative Pam Marsh, was a really big advocate for and worked with us to figure out how we can make this work so we can get some recommendations on how to have more housing faster. So that's a really great bill that passed. Next, for our down payment assistance lending and Scott Shaw's shop. I can't say that 5 times fast. I can't say it 1 time fast. They received $3.9 million for down payment assistance, and that'll go into their queue that they already have going to continue to support Next Home and First Step, which are 2 of our lending programs, and we have down payment assistance with those. We received $2 million for foreclosure avoidance counseling. We received $2.5 million for manufactured park preservation. So if there are parks that are available to be bought by the tenants, we have some funds set aside to work with them to figure out how best we can support them as they in their efforts to buy their mobile or manufactured home parks and marinas. And then $2 million for manufactured home replacement. And that's a program we run out of the MMCRC, and that takes old non-efficient, a lot of times falling apart, manufactured homes and decommissions them and replaces them with brand new ones. One bill I'll highlight that will impact the work with homeownership, that's House Bill 2698. So that establishes a statewide goal for homeownership. We'll also have OHCS publish publicly available data from the American Community Survey on our homeownership rates in the aggregate and disaggregate, broken down by race. And that's a way to show the state and our partners of the legislature how we're doing on our homeownership rates. And we can continue to use that in the future to gather more investments. And that's it from me. I'll throw a couple things in the chat. One of them are highlights from the session for across the agency, as well as a link to our website.
Thanks so much, Nathan. Are there any questions for Nathan about the legislative session or about any of these bills that he just mentioned?
When do the down payment assistance programs kick in?
So those programs are already happening. So the funding that we received will just go into their fund that they currently have, and that'll continue for about a couple years.
And just to clarify, the down payment assistance isn't down payment assistance that's going to community organizations that have received those grants in the past. It's money that's going into our flex lending program and paired with the Next Step or First Home products. And I'll talk a little bit more about what's happening with the other down payment assistance programs in our HOPE update. Any other questions?
Thank you all. Thanks, Talia.
Thanks, Nathan. All right, we will move into program updates, and I'll start with the HOPE programs, or this umbrella of homeownership services programs. So leading back to that question about down payment assistance, many of you know we had the governor had a request for 30 million in down payment assistance funds for general funds in the legislative session that wasn't passed. So we will not be able to do a competitive RFA for new down payment assistance funds that go to community-based organizations, unfortunately. For the 21 providers that do have down payment assistance that still have funding left, we'll be extending your contracts if you have HOPE funding in those contracts. And then we also get for those that have construction excise tax money in your contracts, we'll be adding some more construction excise tax CAT funds into your contracts for some of you. So look out for some emails from Alicia related to that. And so those contracts will also be extended and you'll get some extra funds to keep your down payment assistance programs going. This doesn't apply to all the 21 providers, unfortunately, because of we don't get CET funds from every jurisdiction. And also we're trying to provide a meaningful amount to each organization that's getting more funds. So if you have any questions about that, please email me or Alicia Howell. We'll be communicating with everybody about that in the next week. And then for our homeownership centers, for those of you on the call that don't know about our homeownership centers, we have 15 homeownership centers that serve all of the counties across Oregon with counseling and education and many more resources. And your contracts expire. Oops, there's a typo in here. They don't expire in 2006. They expire in December 2026. We'll be adding onto your contracts to extend them throughout the biennium. So look out for more information about that. We'll be adding money into them and extending them to June 2027. So you probably won't hear from us immediately about extending those contracts since they're not about to expire anytime soon. But know that that is going to be coming, so you can plan ahead. It's just a 6-month extension in addition to your contract, but will kind of take the place of the funding that didn't come through from the legislative session, the 1 million for homeownership centers. We're able to use some of our HOPE revenues that have come in to make sure that you're able to keep providing services throughout the biennium. And then foreclosure avoidance counseling, as Nathan said, we were awarded 2 million in foreclosure avoidance counseling to create new contracts with all the foreclosure counseling providers. And so please continue offering foreclosure avoidance counseling, and we'll have your contracts in place by September, October, around the time that we would expect your first report of all the clients served, and we'll be able to reimburse you for those clients served. But just note that that is less money than we received last biennium for foreclosure avoidance counseling. We got 2.5 million, and we really used it all. So we will, we'll see what happens, and we'll be communicating with you about the use of those funds. And then last is exciting news that our home repair and down payment assistance contracts for veterans should all be out. And we'll be hosting a webinar for those recipients in October. And here's just so everybody knows which organizations have home repair funds for veterans, and then also extra down payment assistance funds for veterans. And these organizations collectively received about 8.7 million in terms of funds for going to veterans for these different purposes. So if you have any veterans knocking at your door, wanting a home repair, wanting to buy a home, please refer them to these organizations. And I believe we have this up on the, oh, okay, yeah. Liz, thank you. This isn't reflective of the down payment assistance money that has previously gone to specifically for veterans, and some of those organizations still have that money as well. So feel free to put in the chat if your organization isn't listed here and has veterans DPA. Thanks, Liz. Great. And so now I will pass it over to Jessica McKinnon to talk more about homeownership development. Or actually, sorry, let me go back a slide. Anybody have questions about these homeownership services and how that will play out?
Yeah, I have a question in regards to the organizations that got the funds. Is there a specific amount that these organizations had funds just to see whether or not they have enough funds to still continue to help buyers? Did they all get the same amount? Was it equally distributed?
Are you talking about the veteran funding?
Correct.
Yeah, they all got different amounts, but they just received this money. So everybody should have money to serve veterans.
Great.
Yeah, I don't think anybody has started using the money yet.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. And I see, let's see, Home Pathways in Gresham. Great. I think you're listed here as CDCO, but that's not reflective of what you're calling yourself. So thank you, Juan. Oh, and the Home Path program. Okay, great. All right, then I will, thanks for chiming in, everybody. And I'll pass it over to Jessica McKinnon.
Great, thank you, Talia. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Jessica McKinnon. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm the Senior Homeownership Development Program Analyst here at OHCS. We have a lot going on over here with the Homeownership Development team. Our first big update is that in June, we awarded over $40 million of lift to 18 homeownership development projects around Oregon. This year was a major milestone for our program, reflecting changes that allowed us to award funds on a per unit basis, which meant that the program was more accessible to many more developers than it historically has been. 18 projects is the most that we've ever funded in a single round of LIFT homeownership, and these projects will add 239 units across the state. There were a lot of firsts and major achievements this year. 7 awardees are receiving LIFT for the first time, including our first limited equity co-op. 2 of our awardees are culturally specific organizations. We're funding 8 rural projects, including our first in Far Eastern Oregon, which is the highest number that we've ever seen in rural projects. 7 projects are using some type of modular or factory-produced construction types. 13 projects are building to an energy certification standard, including 6 net zero projects. These awards have moved on to the onboarding and underwriting phases of our program, and we're excited to take these next steps. And can you change this slide, Talia? Thank you. Now that we've wrapped up our 2025 NOFA, we're already getting started planning for the next year. Earlier in this meeting, Nathan shared our legislative updates. It hasn't been that long. Though we didn't receive any HDIP funding this year, we did receive our full LIFT request of $100 million for the biennium. Unlike other years, we're planning on launching the full amount for the biennium in 2026 rather than splitting it up half and half, and we'll be awarding those funds on a first come, first served basis. As always, we'll go through an engagement process to guide our program changes. Our goal with this process is to understand how any changes may affect you and to ensure that we make decisions that are equitable and make the program more accessible, especially as interest continues to grow beyond our available funding. We'll also be working on a couple new initiatives this year as well. The first is the modular set-aside established by HB 3145. This program sets aside $25 million in LIFT to fund factory-produced developments in both rental and homeownership, and Nathan shared more, so I won't go through the whole spiel. But ultimately, we'll be hiring a new staff member. It's going to live in our department. We'll pull together the committee as written into the bill, and then ultimately we'll decide how that program will work. We're also in some early conversations about hosting a community land trust training institute modeled after the one hosted in Washington State. We hope that this effort will both support new CLTs in getting established and experienced CLTs in building best practices and expanding capacity. And more on these two new initiatives will come later in the year. Slide, please. We're kicking off our engagement session right away, though. This slide is just a rough timeline of what that'll look like. This month, we're launching a kickoff survey for next year's NOFA to help us make some early decisions on our program changes. In August, we'll be hosting some focus groups to help us dig into some deeper questions. In September, we'll present our planned changes and open things up for general questions and feedback. We'll also be presenting at the Housing Oregon Conference, specifics on that, TBD. In October, we'll be presenting our final recommendations to our partners with a last call for feedback at that time. We'll seek Housing Stability Council feedback on our recommendations in November and their approval in December. And then should all go according to plan, we should be ready to launch the NOFA in January. Slide one more. Or next slide, please. Sorry, Talia. Thank you. And I wanted to share, can you go back? Thank you. I wanted to share just a few more details about the first two pages of our NOFA, or the first two phases of our NOFA engagement. First is the kickoff survey. We're launching that today, and it will be open through July 31st. It should take about 10 minutes and covers some general topics like things about your organization, your preferences toward OHCS priorities and processes, your pipeline, and your interest in participating in the CLT Institute and the focus groups. If you applied for that 2025 NOFA, there is also an option to fill out some additional questions about that. The focus groups will dig into some more specific topics that are best addressed through conversation. These will be invitation only so that we can keep the groups small and possibly pull together some special interest groups. There's a sign up section in the kickoff survey, or alternatively, you can email us at our ho.development email address if you're interested in the focus groups, but not the survey. We are trying to limit having too many voices in the room or having a single organization be overrepresented in the conversation. So we ask that you'll send one person who will best represent your organization. You can also send contact information for a secondary representative, either in case the first isn't available for the group, or if that person has a different focus or perspective in your organization. For example, if you have a representative who's focused on development and another with a focus on home buyer support, we may invite one or both, depending on how the groups work out. But that's it for me. Are there any questions before I hand things over to our next speaker?
There's one question from Pooja. Does that mean that it would be 100 million minus the 25 million for modular that will be released in 2026 in the NOFA?
Yes, that's correct. So the 25 million isn't additional. It's going to be its own set aside of our 100 million. We're still not certain on the specifics yet because we still have a lot of work to get through. But my early understanding of the plan is that both homeownership and rental will set aside 25 million. And then after 25 million combined, or whatever goal that the committee and the consultant and the new staff members set, once that goal has been reached, the remainder will be released. So that's what I'm planning on, but that's still a lot to be decided.
Yeah, and I think the timing of availability of that set aside still needs to be worked out. We're hoping it's all rolled out in one NOFA, and there might be some delays on awarding the modular factory built housing projects based on the pace of the advisory committee. Does this mean that there may not be any LIF funds available again until 2028 after the 1 million is awarded? I think maybe what you're asking is this 100 million needs to last, is our money for the biennium, so we won't get another influx of LIFT funding for 2027. Is that what you were asking, Amy?
Yes, that was what I was asking. Thank you.
Great. And I'll add to that. I mentioned that we were going to release all of it in 2026. Part of the engagement is going to be trying to work out what the best option is to support planned 2027 projects so that there's not just some giant gap where we only fund 2026 awards and you're kind of left behind if you had 2027 plans. So.
Okay. Thank you,
All right,
Jessica.
sorry.
I figured you'd have a plan.
I'll pay attention for 5 minutes. What are we supposed to do?
So I put the link to the survey in the chat and just wanted to urge anybody that's a developer or interested in LIFT funding to please fill it out. It will help shape the kind of questions that we ask in our further engagement and help inform the NOFA. So Jessica, remind us what, okay, it's open through the end of the month. We think it will only take about 10 minutes. And also there's not a lot of required questions. So feel free to answer the questions that you are an expert in. And it's mostly multiple choice. So yeah, please, we will be very grateful if you take some time to fill out the survey.
Yes. And I think the most time specific or the most time consuming part of the survey is probably responses about your own timeline or your own pipeline. So if we ask for some details if you're applying or planning to apply for 2026 or 2027 projects. And then if you're wanting to answer questions about the 2025 NOFA, expect that that'll add another 1 or 2 minutes. Maybe it's just a few questions.
Any other questions for Jessica? You'll definitely, if you're a developer that we've been talking to or has LIFT funding, you'll be hearing from us a lot more. So stay tuned. But again, let us know if you want that survey link again. I think we'll be sending it out as well, a TA, so it'll come in your inboxes. And also, if you filled out the survey, then you don't need to email to sign up for the focus groups. So great. Thanks, Jessica. I will now pass it over to Scott Shaw to share lending updates.
All right, everybody, good afternoon. I just kind of wanted to give you guys an update. We've been kind of quiet on flex lending. Most of you already probably know that we launched First Home, which is what succeeded our legacy bond program in November. As a result, we've seen quite an uptick in activity, whereas we used to have 9 approved lenders with the legacy bond. We're now up to 35 approved lenders with flex lending. Year to date, we have trained 1,350, actually more than 1,350 lenders. We've locked over 650 loans, and we reserved over $4.8 million worth of DPA. The net result on this is that we're on track to create more home buyers since before 2020. And that is my update. And if there's anybody that has any questions, I don't want to take up too much of Talia's time. I have no problem answering them, and it's nice to see y'all.
Good to see you too, Shaw.
Any questions for Scott? Yeah, echo the kudos and congratulations. Very exciting. Okay. Oh, there's a question for you, Scott. How much DPA?
So we've got 4.8 million that has been reserved since January. Good question.
Is there a list as to how much money was distributed to those organizations that you mentioned before?
Oh, the veterans
Right.
DPA organizations?
Yeah, like a contact information for these organizations so we could tap into those funds. I mean, so many people don't know about them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we could put a list on our website. I can also get you that list. Yeah. We, I believe we have a Restore Health and Safety website, and we could post that there, and we could also post it in the spot where we usually post the recording of this meeting. Jessica, would you mind putting that link in the chat?
Thank you.
Great.
Can
Well,
you
this is,
clarify which link, Talia?
oh, the link where we usually post our updates or the recordings of our calls. I can also
Yes,
look it up in a second.
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. So Rosalie, you'll know where to turn back to. Okay, great. Now is the time in our meeting where we just turn it to you all to share any updates with each other or with us. So we'll just open up the floor and see what's happening in the community.
So I was recently out in the community talking to a lot of people who want to take advantage of the down payment assistance programs. And one of the concerns is always, of course, that funds run out. But is there a way to get them like pre-approved or to give them an idea as to when the funds will be available? I mean, are they available now or is it coming soon? Or because when I call some of the organizations are like, we don't have any funds. So I'm assuming that these funds are now there available that you're speaking of now, right?
For the new veterans DPA funds, we are executing contracts with all the grantees, and maybe some of the grantees on this call want to speak to when they'll have their programs up and running and ready to distribute the funding. I don't know, not to call you out, but Juan, I did see you in the chat. Do you want to share any information about your program and when you'll be able to start pre-qualifying veterans for the funds? All right. Well, yeah, I think I'll just share the list. Some of these organizations are already have funds already are actively providing down payment assistance. And then this is just adding to the pot. Some will be starting providing down payment assistance for the first time. So I think definitely we can send out a list and location for these places. But the funds should be available relatively soon.
So Talia, if you want, I could address how Community Connection is doing it right now.
That'd be great. Thank you.
So we don't have the executed contract yet for the new fund, but I have always maintained a waiting list. So I vet kind of on a continual basis whenever it comes up and determine, you know, what their timeline is, if it looks like that's going to fit into the program performance period. And I keep a list. So then when the funds are actually available, essentially all I have to do is primarily verify income one last time, and then we can roll with it. So and we did allocate all of our funds for the last round, and now just kind of waiting for the new contract. So, but I do take, you know, anybody that's interested or anybody that knows the veteran that is planning to buy, kind of a continual process.
Thank you, Susie. Anyone else that represents one of these organizations want to talk about how you accept?
What organization did she represent? The lady that just spoke?
Community Connection of Northeast Oregon.
We cover Union, Baker, Wallowa, and Grant County.
I'd love to chime in too, if you're done, Susie.
Yes, please do, Michelle.
Yep, us rural organizations. We are so thrilled for Klamath and Lake counties here in Southern Oregon and off to the east to be able to begin our veterans, our VDPA. We don't have the Health and Restore, but we do have the veterans. So we just got our contract. It's all executed and signed, and off we go. I would love to know, Susie, if you have already built a flyer for that, and if you would be willing to share that with others, maybe on the call as well. I'm just waiting because there's some different parameters, such as the grant qualification rather than the loan piece on this. So I'd like to know if you'll share that flyer, if you've created one.
Haven't created it yet, waiting for our contract, and I have started the preliminary process of going through our policies and just kind of marking things that I know are going to have to be updated. So, but I would be happy to share that with you when I have it.
Fabulous. I really enjoy the fact that on this particular grant, we can exclude some of the income, the disability and the pension. I mean, that's going to get the money out the door in a much better way. So we're excited to start rolling on this and appreciate it.
Yeah, that brings me to guidelines. Do we have guidelines for any of these programs?
Yeah, Rosalie, if you want to reach out, I'm happy to answer a lot of your questions. It sounds like you have some in the weeds questions. And it's also different. The DPA here at OHCS is a little confusing because we have so many different sources. We have HOPE funds, we have CET funds, we have these veteran DPA funds. Generally, the participants or the recipients have to have an income of 100% AMI or below, and they have to be first-time or first-generation homebuyers. And there's a lot of details kind of behind that. So I'm happy to chat with you. I can put my email in the chat or connect you with the HOPE team.
Thank you.
And Amy, do you have something to share?
Yes, hi, this is Amy with the Still Nest. Our I would love to hear from others about how they're structuring their veterans DPA. We just signed our contract, and it's our intent to structure it as a forgivable loan after the owner's in the home for maybe 5 or 7 years, to offer that much needed equity and windfall for households who have sacrificed so much for our country. And we're just starting the process of working on those loan docs. So I'd love to hear from others, and this might not be the platform, but on how you're using them and if you want to collaborate on docs at all.
We have, for those that received Veterans DPA, we're having a welcome call pretty soon. And I think that would be a great space for us to talk about how do we share information and share documents to reduce the workload for everyone and share best practices. So Amy, if we don't get to that in the welcome webinar, will you bring it up? And Susie, I like your, Michelle, I like your idea of sharing flyers and stuff. So we'll plan to make some space for that kind of discussion at that welcome webinar. All right, any other announcements, questions, updates? If not, I'll just share our final slide, but feel free to chime in. Yes, Michelle, that's the webinar tomorrow. So this is good timing that we heard your feedback today and we can incorporate it for tomorrow. Oh, okay, I had one more update to share that's not an OHCS update, but this is more for those doing development or other types of projects in the community. We just got some information from the Department of Environmental Quality that in the spring they will be having a materials management grant program, and we thought this would be applicable for those that are planning some sustainable development projects. So the grant cycle, the 2026 grant cycle, will fund projects that help reduce exposure to toxic chemicals. They have a list of the toxic chemicals some examples that they're trying to reduce in the environment, but are open to other types of projects. And there's 2 million available. There will be a competitive RFA in the spring. And also not a ton of information up yet, but just a good other agency resource to know about. And we'll share out information when we have more as well, just to remind you as it gets closer. So I'll put that link in the chat, and looks like, yes. Great. And then I'm just going to share our final slide, which is that August 8th is our next Housing Stability Council meeting. We don't expect to have any homeownership items going to council unless, Scott, do you have any items that you think will go?
No, we do not have anything going to council this year or this next. Oh, heck. No, none of the DPA or anything like that's going to council. Sorry about that.
Okay. Yeah, so no homeownership items, but always encourage folks to hear what's going on at the agency. Jessica shared about the engagement opportunities, and then we will soon schedule our next homeownership partner call for September, October. And for those of you that received Veterans DPA funding, sorry for the confusion. Liz, you asked what's tomorrow. It's the webinar welcoming those new Veterans DPA recipients. And there's 11 of them that were listed on that slide. So you're not missing anything. If you didn't get the money, it's mostly to talk about the contract. But with that, just thank you everyone for joining today and sharing this space with us and coming to listen and share. please reach out if you ever have thoughts about how we can do this meeting better, if there's topics that you want to make sure are covered here. And again, we'll be posting these slides and the recording to our website at the link that Jessica posted. And Erica, oh, 2 more hands. Okay, Amy and then Erica.
Hi, sorry, this was an afterthought when you brought up the DEQ thing, but the governor just supported some water reuse initiatives. And we're one of the communities we got funded for this year. Hopefully both of them really, because it's kind of low hanging fruit. We're doing like water reuse for flushing toilets and some other, not super expensive high tech things that don't take a lot of some pre-planning, but not, a lot of in-depth engineering. So worth looking into.
Cool.
I put the link in the chat for the article.
Talia, I'm sorry, I joined a little bit late, and so I missed the first part, and I will definitely be checking out the recording on the website that you linked. And I was wondering, it feels a little bit confusing about what funding is currently still available to support homeownership centers. And I was wondering if there is any like spreadsheet or chart or something to help us understand what's changed.
Yeah, so here's the lowdown that we gave. I think what will be helpful is if we just have a meeting with the homeownership centers to kind of talk through what the next couple of years are going to look like. But really the biggest change is just that we didn't get down payment assistance money, and there's not enough HOPE or document recording fee revenue that has accumulated to do another down payment assistance RFA. So we're kind of baking on that CRO money. So that's the biggest change. Everything else should be constant. We still have foreclosure avoidance counseling money. Your homeownership center contracts will go through the biennium.
Okay.
So
no new
yeah,
funding for homeownership operational support though. Okay.
Yeah, no new funding.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. All right, well, please reach out to anyone on our teams. Oh, Liz, go for it.
Sorry. Oh, wait.
We can hear
Sorry.
you.
No, no new funding for operational support. Does that mean that the HOPE general operating funds will be going away at the end of next year? There won't be any for 2027?
Are you talking about your homeownership center contracts?
Yeah, I'm talking about 6232.
Okay, I don't know the number of the contract, but we are extending homeownership center contracts through the end of biennium, so to 6/2027.
Okay.
So they end in 12/2026. We'll be adding on another $1 million collectively to the contracts and extending them till the end of the biennium.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and we'll have a more concentrated meeting with the homeownership centers, and this is the kind of the extent of the information that we have, but we can have a more detailed conversation about that and about what that means and about what that will look like for thinking about the future bienniums, since we're able to carry you through this biennium, but we're not sure what it will look like after that. So look out for some messaging for an email from us. All right, well, thank you everyone. Again, reach out to any of our team if you have any questions. We're always happy to talk to you about programs or hear about your program. And if we don't see you before then, we'll see you in a couple months. Thanks so much.